So, addressing the same complaint that I've had in the last two videos, I cannot win in this one because I'm not actually in this video. This one was actually sent to me, and I am actually quite grateful for a couple of people sending me a few replays because, of course, there is a little bit less time for me to actually do everything by myself now that university has officially started once again. So, this is, it's nice to have one, and it's also nice to not know the outcome of a battle before going into recording the replay of it. So, of course, WK did send me this scenario, this battle, because, of course, he is the green on the map over here. So this is a free-for-all. It's a it's a four-player free-for-all, so 1v1v1v1. And, of course, he is playing as Harad. So we'll go through the army compositions, and, of course, the links to the Discord and the mod DB will be down in the description below, as well as the timestamp for the battle starting. And this is a very open... Let's actually talk about the map before we go through the army compositions. Of course, this is a standard map. It's very flat. It's very open. There's very little in the way of terrain. There's like a few soft hills, but this is honestly what most of the sort of pitch battles that you will do on standard maps will end up being like. So mobility is much more of a factor in these more open maps, of course. And of course, I'm repeating myself over and over again here, but this middle part of the map is something where people in free-for-alls will very rarely venture into the middle because it is really a death zone, and of course you can see back there that one of the armies is deployed way at the back, hoping to be left alone. But of course that sort of behaviour will often lead to people ganging up on you, but we'll see if that happens in this one. It is actually fairly long for a free-for-all. 27,000 frames is, quite a lot for, a more open map. They usually tend to go more quickly. So let's go through WK's army. He is playing as Harad, of course, and he has the Demons of the Desert, the best javelin unit in the game as it stands, and will probably remain the best javelin unit for, well, I don't know. Rudauer have got a very, very good one as well, but I'd have to see both of them in action side by side to see which one is better. And of course we have the Mumakil, so he's going for definitely a lot of quality in singular units, and that of course means that over here he's got quite a lot of Haradrim spearmen. Now, Haradrim spearmen, of course, are very, very basic. They're not going to do much damage, but they will at least fill out your army a little bit. He's got a calf presence as well. He's got some Variag lances. We don't actually get to see these guys close up an awful lot. Obviously, they are a little bit more Candish in the way that they are styled. The Variags, of course, being from Cand. And then we have the Serpent Guard over here. Again, I do like the look of the Serpent Guard, and they are getting a new model. Well, the upgraded version of them anyway. The Bodyguards are certainly getting a new model in the next patch, which looks very, very cool indeed. And then over here he's got some Southron Warband, so they'll be good against armour provided they can get into the right targets. He's got a lot of Haradrim spearmen, I've just noticed. He's got another whole line of them here. And he also has these Trollmen of Harad as well. So he actually has no archers by the looks of things. I mean, unless he's... Well, no, you can see all of his army, so he hasn't got any Hashari Shadows or anything like that. So, interesting. No archers, so he's definitely going to be going for a rush. And this is the poor player that's going to be the subject of that rush, and it is Mordor, played by Spooky Gnome again. Nice to see him. And we have some Orc Archers, so he does have some archers, but they aren't exactly the cream of the crop. Orc Archers will get the job done, they're not exactly fantastic. He's also got some Orc Fodder up here with the stakes, so he's gone for a little bit more of a... He's not focusing on one front, so he's not going to be charging in. He's gone for a little bit more of a conservative approach, waiting and seeing where the enemy is deployed, and certainly Harad are the ones that are his most immediate threat, so he's going to be turning these archers around. Back here he's got the Moran on bow, so he's also got a more elite Archer Corps back here. They are very, very cost efficient, these guys. And then he's got the Moran on Halberds as well, and then back here I assume he's got his more elite units. Well, he's got some Moran on Uruks as well, and then some fodder on either side. And then back here he has, yes indeed, the Temple Inquisitors, an Uruk bodyguard unit, and then some Numenorian Shield Guard on both flanks. Now the Numenorian Shield Guard should be enough to hold off Harad's light cav, but not the Mumakil. And certainly not, well, it depends. We'll have to wait and see how well that rush actually pans out, because it is made up of a lot of trash. We shall see. And then over here, overshot them again, we have Pizza Maker 90 playing as Dale, and he's gone for the very defensive approach. Again, if I see this in a free-for-all, this is immediately the sort of tactics I will ask one of the other players to team up on to try and take this sort of defensive position down, because obviously it is rather cynical to deploy way back here, but of course it is often the smart thing to do. He's got several Lake Town units, so he's got Lake Town Spearmen, Lake Town Pikes. In front of them he has the Dalian Spearmen, so he's got a very defensive front line. The spears won't buckle and the pikes will be able to get their attacks off through them. He's also got the very cost-effective Dalian Marksmen. They're very tough to beat in a skirmish fight. Nothing short of elite archers will do it. A couple of units of dismounted Earls, again. Very, very good unit, very tough, very solid. And then he's got Dalesmen back here. They're a low-tier shock unit, very similar to the Lumbermen from Eriador. and some Dale Swordmasters over here. Again, more Lake Town Spears, and then on either side he's got some Dalian Cavalry, so a rather interesting sort of army over here. Obviously the funds for this one are on the lower end of things, in contrast to the last match where all the elites were on display. A little bit more thought had to go into these armies, and finally we have the Dwarves, played by Bugs. Again, the Dwarves traditionally a little bit more defensive, but he has spread out a little bit, so he might be going forward for the attack. He's got some Ironfoot Guard, he's got Merchant Militia as well, just to fill out his ranks. Khazad Warriors. Khazad Warriors, of course, you can have less of them when you compare them to the Ironfoot Guard, but they are essentially the same unit. They will do exactly the same sort of job in the same sort of situation. So he's got Ironfoot Crossbows as well, so the crossbowmen are in here. He's also got Hammers of Gundabad. Several units of Ironfoot Warriors as well, so he's got both the Ironfoot and the Khazad units. The Mithril Guard, again, I'm not sure Dale have got anything in particular that can actually take on the Mithril Guard. They don't seem to have a lot of armour piercing. And they also have some Ironfoot Crossbows, and then up here he's got the Goats, everyone's favourite law-breaking unit. We have the Ironfoot War Goats. So I think it will actually behoove us to move over here as the battle starts to watch the Haradrim advance, because I can only imagine that Harad are going to try and get into the Mordor lines as quickly as possible, considering that he hasn't actually got a defensive line sorted out over here. Harad's best bet is to try and get into this as quickly as possible, because honestly a lot of these Haradrim spearmen will not do very well. He's going to be relying particularly on the Trollmen in melee, and of course the Mumakil to disrupt, because the Cav, I mean, he's got 2 Serpent Guard and the Variag Lancers. The Shield Guard usually aren't actually the best Cav in the world, but, you know, Harad have not brought their Serpent Bodyguard, so they won't be overwhelmed. No Wargs from Mordor. Oh, and that's a pretty terrible mistake right off the bat. He charged through his own spikes. So that Mounted Numenorean Cavalry is already down a few units. That time he didn't, of course, because you're going through the other side, but that was very unfortunate indeed. And over here he's got the fodder out front. Haradrim Spearmen are charging in. Again, Orc Fodder are one of the few units Haradrim Spearmen will just straight up beat. The Orc Archers firing into the Haradrim Spears. Again, the regular Archers and the Morannon Bows together are actually a fairly decent skirmish force, and Harad have not brought a skirmish force at all, so we'll see how this goes for them. Southron Warband are coming in. Southron Warband will pretty easily deal with Orc Fodder in melee, provided they aren't being skirmished. And as you can see, the rush tactics have rather paid off, because Mordor don't really have a line as such, which means he's going to be able to wriggle in spearmen in and around several of these units. Orc Fodder here. Morannon Halberds are getting into position now, though. Pretty good rush so far. He's only committed his lower tier units. He's got his Mumakil sort of cycling around here, his Cav, and he's got the rest of his Haradrim Spearmen coming up with the Trollman in reserve. The Southron Warband will be key in this fight, because they will actually perform quite well with their armour piercing. Just get in a little closer. Again, these Halberdiers will hold, provided they aren't flanked. You can see that these Mounted Numenorean Shield Guard, are they coming in for the charge? Yes, they are. So they are going to charge, they're going to get a decent amount of kills. They're also going to take a few casualties from these spearmen. The Mumakil running over his own units. Surely they're not running amok. Nope. But you can see that with the Mumakil committed, all of the sort of... Oh, and back there we've got Dalian Cavalry that have swooped in from Dale into the back ranks of Mordor, into the Orc Archers. So Mordor is being ganged up on somewhat, they are set upon. And the Mumakil, with the addition of the rush, and now the fact that they're going to be able to break up this formation if we get like a nice view, Harad are going to be able to sort of seep in through the cracks, and that's where their numbers will really come into play. Mordor might have more quality on the field, which is not something you say often, but Harad are really going to be able to make their numbers pay if Mordor don't have a solid defence set up, and they really didn't. They weren't prepared. Harad were very close to them. And as you can see, they're sort of trying to send in their Morannon Uruks, which are sorely needed on the front line. Again, Harad defeat does seem certain for them, but they have another wave of Haradrim Spearmen coming in. And these Mumakil, I mean, they just keep running over these Morannon Halberds, getting a lot of kills on the way through, and that of course does also help out their own troops. Helps them overcome some of their shortcomings. It's just a random unit of Orc Fodder out there. There's some Orc Fodder. I've sort of lost track of the Demons of the Desert at this point. I assume they haven't used their payload just yet, and yet Orc Maulers, there's a lot of routing going on because of the Mumakil. It's very effective use of the Mumakil. When used in conjunction with a rush, that's very good. And over here we can see that the Mounted Numenorean Shield Guard again attempted a charge on the Southron Warband. They're going to be made to pay for that though. armor-piercing spears are actually no joke. Regular spearmen are honestly kind of underpowered in this patch, 0.91. But armor-piercing spears are very effective if used against the right units, of course. They could be considered even worse than regular spearmen against unarmoured targets. And the Moran bows now being accosted in melee, the Mumakil going forward. Let's head over to the other side of the battle where Dale is preparing a defence against the Dwarves. Dale, of course, have got the ranged advantage in terms of skirmishers, which probably means the Dwarves do need to get a bit of a move on here. The Dwarven infantry line will pretty easily crumple the Dale one. I mean, they can engage the pikes and then they can sort of wrap around. Really, the only thing that Dale have that's a real threat to the Dwarves are the Swordmasters, and even that's debatable because of the lack of armour piercing they have. The Cav is perhaps also a bit of a concern, but it is Dalian Cav, so... You know, they do have their war goats in reserve as well.
The enemy force remains. We must pray they lose their will to fight.
Back over here, though, we can see that half the enemy force remains, which is almost certainly the Mordor army. Taken by surprise in that blitzkrieg. Of course, Harad will probably suffer for this in the late game. Rush builds, traditionally, you have to accept a lot of casualties as well as the punishment you deal out. And in a 1v1, that's fine, because obviously there's only one army for you to deal with. But late on, Harad will have to deal with some manner of army, whether that's the Dale or the Dwarves, it remains to be seen. They're probably
shines on our disgrace. We must turn the wind of battle, or we will taste ashes instead of victory.
A decent charge onto the Trollmen there by the Shield Guard, but that's going to be the end of them. The Serpent Guard coming in to help. And again, where are the demons, I wonder? I mean, with the demons of the desert and the Trollmen, provided they're still alive in the late game, the Dwarves would probably be the preferable target for Harad. Of course, these Mumakil. Still all of them alive, but most of their hit points have probably been expended by them running through the Mordor lines consistently. Of course, Beriag Lance is getting some charges off. Halberdier is dying. Orc Archers back here. You can see the Mordor elites, the Uruk Bodyguard and the Temple Inquisitors, are sort of trying to run away. Again, as they're sort of running away, that might be the ideal opportunity to get some charges off, because the Temple Inquisitors, nothing Harad have in melee can match it 1-for-1, and I'm not sure they're going to have the numbers to efficiently deal with them. I mean, it all rather depends on whether the Mumakil can survive the pain of the Mordor lines. But yeah, Harad are going to win this. They've got some more Haradjan Spearmen in reserve. Actually, I think the Demons of the Desert are still hidden way back there, so that's good. You know, it's good to hold your most elite units in reserve, particularly ones that can hide. One of the most popular strategies for Umbar is to hide your Corsair crossbows in a corner and only reveal them later on. Meanwhile, if we look over here, we can see that the Dalian cavalry charged into the Ironfoot crossbows that were out front. Again, the Ironfoot crossbows way too far away from their lines there. Again, really, the Dwarves, they can't afford to sit in a skirmish fight with Dale at this point. I mean, especially not with the Cav advantage. They need to get into melee as quickly as they possibly can. That's where their advantage lies. And again, the Ironfoot Wargoats will win in a Cav fight with the Dalian cavalry, but the Ironfoot Wargoats are also much slower. You know, light Cav against heavy Cav. And not only that, but I think the Wargoats are actually slower in general. They do have a bit of a speed malus on them. Whereas the Dalian light Cav, the full speed of Cav, and yeah, this is not the right way to go about it for the Dwarves. All of their strength lies in their melee units, and they also have, you know, if they were to wrap around Dale with all their stuff, I think they would probably come out on top. And if they just used their goats to sort of zone out the Cav, that would probably be the way to go about it. They can't afford to sit back and skirmish, and as we can see over here, Harad have basically routed nearly all of the Orc units, and they still have a healthy amount of Cav left. So yeah, even despite the quality sort of deficiencies of the Harad army, the sort of the Mordor player was obviously unprepared for that rush, and he didn't have time to get a good line set up, and Harad was able to get in and around his line very, very easily. And so good work from WK there. He's got a decent army left, honestly. I mean, if Dale and the Dwarves do a number on one another, it's looking good for Harad, particularly with these Mumakil still alive. And of course the Demons of the Desert that are now coming up. I mean, the Demons of the Desert are a fair match for anything the other players have in melee. And of course the Mordor player is still in the game. He still has the Temple Inquisitors and the Uruk Bodyguard. If he saves them for the late game, he could still come out on top, believe it or not, despite the fact he took a real savaging there. Over here, things are going pretty well for Dale, though. The Dwarven player. Again, this Dalian cavalry victory seems certain. They actually do pull out armor-piercing axes in melee. And we can see that they are trying to sort of skirmish down these Ironfoot warriors. Again, Dwarven units are very, very good against missiles. So really the only thing that would take a severe amount of damage would be the crossbows. I mean, the hammers of Gundabad wouldn't be a bad target to go after, honestly. They've got no shields. And of course, skirmishing down one of those elite units makes it more likely that when the dwarves finally do commit, there's not really much they can do to punch through Dale's lines. I mean, the longer this goes on, the more and more the dwarves are throwing away their own advantage. I mean, these war goats, even these war goats, if they tried to get in there, I mean, they'd smash through the spears with impunity, really. Yeah, the Harad player just sort of biding their time, the Mordor player with their elite unit. So this is where the... Oh, there were some Athala Rangers there. As we can see, the Dwarven crossbows have been savaged. I mean, the Dalian Cav has been very easily able to deal with them. It does look like the Dwarven infantry is starting to move forwards, though. And they really need to. I mean, they've got Ironfoot Guard as well somewhere. There's another multiple HP infantry unit. But I think that really the advantage has come and gone for the Dwarves. I mean, they've lost all of their crossbows. They've also taken a decent amount of, maybe not casualties, but the arrow fire that has been raining down on a couple of units of their warriors has weakened them. And with the addition of the Dalian elite infantry, they probably do have enough to hold at this point. Albeit, probably at the expense of victory as well. I mean, Harad, with how efficiently they were able to deal with Mordor, at this point, the advantage has got to go to them, I think. Again, traditionally, Dale... This is the sort of situation... The Dwarves are a sort of an opponent for Dale, which they can struggle with if they don't bring certain units. Again, armor piercing is key against the Dwarves, and something like Barding Herd, and particularly the Dale Paladins, will do very well against the Dwarves, but the vast majority of their infantry line is not armor piercing. The Dalian Spearmen are, however. Again, they won't be able to sort of deal with the force of a Dwarven advance. He does need to get these spears in front of his pikes, really, though. At least the Dwarves are finally advancing, though. I mean, I assume that Dale have probably used most of their ammunition up at this point. Although that's a lot of Athala Rangers. Well, I say a lot. There's 2 units, and there's also Dalian Marksmen. I mean, there's quite a lot of dead Dalesmen here, but... the crossbows would have been much better off going for something like the Earls. You can see the Harad army sort of moving in the distance as well. Ironfoot Wargoats. We missed a charge from the Ironfoot Wargoats into the Mordor player of all things. Again, really, it's not really worth wasting your forces on the Mordor player at this point if you're the Dwarves. Yeah, the Wargoats are not going to be able to hold up to Templar Inquisitors in sustained melee. Especially not with the Uruk bodyguard around. And Harad, I mean, they're just going to swoop in and finish Mordor off after this little favour the Dwarves have done for them in weakening these 2 Mordor units a little bit. It's all coming up Harad at the moment. I mean, that would be my prediction. Again, I'm not really sure what the Dwarves are trying to do. I mean, it looked like they were advancing, and now they've changed their mind. And at this point, their forces are sort of spread out enough that Dale could honestly probably charge into a couple of these Ironfoot warriors and destroy them pretty quickly. I'm very confused as to what they're doing, unless some sort of agreement was reached between Dale and the Dwarves for them to sort of team up on Harad, which is possible. I mean, certainly if I were looking at the Harad army, I would be rather concerned. I mean, the Dale and the Dwarves certainly don't want to be killing one another when there are Mumakil, Demons of the Desert, and all of these sorts of very scary units in effect. Mordor is still in play. I mean, probably not for much longer. They're sandwiched between 3 armies technically that want them dead. Although these Wargoats have been pretty efficiently dealt with. Again, the Templar Inquisitors, other than the Elder Palace Guard, are the strongest infantry unit at dealing damage at the moment, and the Mordor player, I think, is just going to throw his units into melee against Harad's weak infantry. I mean, it's highly likely that he'll just be rear-charged at that point. But I suppose, with his final breath, he wants to spite the player that all but destroyed his army. With nothing but spearmen, really. Yeah, there goes the charges. And there goes the Mordor general.
See how these snakes fight without their head.
They lost a few Serpent Guard there, but honestly worth it. There goes the Mumakil. I mean, if they keep cycle charging with Mumakil in here, they won't last very long. But yes, it does indeed look like the Dwarves and Dale have reached some sort of agreement, because they are both moving in tandem. And Harad needs to hurry up and destroy these Mordor forces now, because otherwise he will find himself surrounded, and outnumbered by the Dale and the Dwarves, he's not going to have the units to deal with that. Too much low tier stuff. He's got some Skiltron Haradrim spears back here. Where are his demons? Are they just sort of in amongst these trollmen? Nope, here they are. So his demons are ready. I mean, the demons of the desert with their javelins are sufficient to kill basically any infantry unit. I mean, even the Mithril Guard are going to feel the effects of their jabbies. And then over here we have what's left of the Harad Cav force, which is honestly a greater amount than Dale have, so... Harad do have the mobility advantage. Those Mumakil probably won't last much longer. A nice charge from the Serpent Guard. And yeah, very quickly as a result of the Cav and the Mumakil, even the Temple Inquisitors are going to find themselves killed, especially with the Trollmen helping the lower tier Spearman. There's the Mumakil again. It is quite amusing to see what the Mumakil do. Of course, there is still, with this uneasy alliance between Dale and the Dwarves, there is still the fact that who goes in and fights Harad? I mean, one of them is going to want to hold all of their good stuff back, and it looks like Dale is indeed holding all of his elites back, in the hope that then he can use his elites to finish off the haggard remains of the Dwarves, no doubt. And Harad, you know, taking on those Mordor infantry units is going to hurt them, and Dale do still have some archers. And these sorts of Harad units are much more susceptible to arrows than the Dwarves are. Again, I'm not entirely sure that you shouldn't be going for the Demons of the Desert, unless they're hidden. No, they're not hidden. So Harad at this point is just going to charge all of his infantry into Dale, it looks like. The dynamics of free-for-alls are often entertaining. We'll see if the Dwarves take advantage of Dale's open flank later. I hope they do. Otherwise I can see this being rather one-sided in the late game one way or the other. We have these Athala Rangers. They still have ammunition. They still have their bows out. And I think the Dale player realised that rather quickly and he's now retreating them. Lake Town Spearmen, these Ironfoot Warriors. Is he going to try and recharge Dale? Indeed, he is pulling back his Dwarves. So I think he is. What's left of the Haradrim infantry will be taking on Lake Town Spears. Again, I'm not convinced that they shouldn't just stay in melee. I mean, they're going to get recharged now. Lake Town Spears are not the best unit in the world. I mean, I kind of like the way they look. We're getting close here. Okay, cheeky screenshot time. Hang on. I want to get those shields from Dale in there. I do like the Lake Town infantry's look, but again, they aren't the best. And indeed, the Dwarves, betrayal. This is what I like to see. So now the Dwarves are going to be clattering into the sides of Dale. And this is going to lead to it being very interesting. Again, the Dwarves, they were taken advantage of by Dale in the early game, and now Dale is going to be taking advantage of the Dwarves again. These Earls, they do pretty well against standard Ironfoot Warriors, but when the Mithril Guard are here, they don't stand a chance. Mithril Guard are real tanks, and he's sending in the other unit of Earls. I do like how the reshader sort of makes the Earls look. No one could ever accuse Dale of lacking style, but at this point they're going to lack a little bit in terms of an infantry fight against the Dwarves. And now we can see the Mumakil, still all four of them alive. I'm actually quite surprised about that. That will probably change when they start going into the Dwarves, because, you know, the Dwarves are just hardier. And also the Mumakil, they kill... What I have noticed is they tend to do more damage against unarmoured units, significantly more damage. So against the Dwarves they will do less damage, but again, tearing up the Dale line there. Most of them will get back up, but now if you look here, the two-pronged assault from the Mumakil and the Serpent Guard, so as soon as they get back up they're trampled. And with the Trollmen here, I mean, this Dale line here is going to fall apart very quickly, and the Demons are still in effect. Again, they're wavering. So that betrayal from the Dwarves could pretty much lead to Dale's downfall. This Dalian cavalry is going to charge into the Mumakil, I think. And that is going to be enough to kill one of them. Charging into Mumakil with cavalry, provided they don't counter-charge you, does actually work. So they did manage to kill a Mumakil. The Demons of the Desert are being focused down by something. But what? Ah, this one unit of Dalian marksman has only got 27 left in it, so he is now firing at the Demons. But there is this Harad Cav running around over here. At this point, if I were Harad, I would start thinking of recharging the dwarves, because at this point Dale is pretty much done for. And again, you can see these Khazad warriors engaging the Haradrim in melee. The Khazad warriors need to be a little bit more careful of these trollmen, but against the low tier spears, of course, they're not going to do any damage to dwarves. A rush like what the Haradrim did early on would never work against. Well, it could work against the dwarves, but it's unlikely. Still, none of the demons have fallen.
We must turn the wind of battle, or we will taste ashes instead of victory.
See how fast the Dalian cavalry is. It's not the most durable though. I mean, they are going to sort of chase off more of these Serpent Guard. There's also pikemen back here. There's the Thala Rangers that still have ammunition. It's devolved into chaos. If we have a look, there's the Haradrim line against the dwarves. The Khazad warriors are going to die, but the dwarves are going to punch through the Dalian line. So the Mordor player admits defeat. The merchant militia are over here, facing off against the sword masters. Now the sword masters are going to cleave through a lower tier unit of infantry like this, no problem at all. But the Dalian earls, even with the backup of the Dalesmen and these Dalian marksmen, I mean, the Mithril Guard is so strong. And again, short of really, Dale didn't have enough armor piercing to deal with them in melee, which is why I'm surprised the dwarves didn't go full attack from the get-go. They probably would have crumpled the dwarves, the Dalian army. And we can see now the Demons of the Desert, they've lost a few unit models, but they still have all their payload. The Mumakil are starting to die in close proximity to these heavy Dwarven units. The Khazad warriors are routing though, even with their cloaks. I do like the Khazad units. It's a possibility that they will end up being renamed and sort of repurposed as the central part of the Blue Mountains dwarves. When they finally get added, I think that they will be one of the last factions to get added though. Because again, there's a bit of redundancy in the dwarves between them and the Khazad warrior. Well, the Ironfoot warriors and the Khazad warriors do basically the same thing, so I can only imagine that the dwarves of the Blue Mountains will use a renamed Khazad warrior as their sort of central infantry unit. Thala Rangers, no match for Dwarven infantry units, and Dale, I mean at this point, the Mumakil are still alive and they have spotted these Thala Rangers. Doesn't look like they're going to go for them though.
They have lost half their men.
There's some rivermen that I missed. So the javelins are not going to be able to be used. These Haradrim spearmen, there's not much the Dalian cavalry is routing. The Demons of the Desert are firing their missiles at what? They're using it on the Cav? That's not really worth it. Again, you're definitely going to want to use these Demons of the Desert's payload on one of the Dwarven infantry units. Unless their range is just more ridiculous than I ever thought. Which is possible, I suppose. In terms of javelins, they are horrendously powerful compared to most. There's still Ironfoot warriors, there's still Khazad warriors. Is there any Ironfoot guards still knocking around? There's some Ironfoot crossbowmen back there. These Mithril Guard still looking very strong. The finest of the dwarves. Again, the Dalian marksmen are armor piercing, but they are outmatched. They don't really stand much of a chance. And over here, these Ironfoot warriors. The Trollmen are looking a little bit worse for wear at this point. I think the dwarves have honestly got a bit of the upper hand, but look how long there is still to go. Again, it's around this point when a normal free-for-all would be sort of drawing to a close, but here, there's still a lot of battle left in this yet. The Dale Swordmasters are being engaged by Ironfoot Guards, so yes, there are Ironfoot Guardsmen. Ironfoot Guard are not armor piercing, but then I don't think the Dale Swordmasters are especially armoured themselves. What are they doing? Oh, they got here and then they changed their mind. Again, these Swordmasters are probably the best thing Dale has left, though. This Mithril Guard is, well, it's lost a few more units, but its Dalian Marksman is doing its best to sort of weaken it. But I do think with the amount of infantry the dwarves still have on the field, the other forces are going to struggle to contain them just because of how tough they are.
Shines on our disgrace. We must turn the wind of battle, or we will taste ashes instead of victory.
Even the Demons of the Desert, defeat seems certain for them. Although defeat also seems certain for their opponents. The Demons should be able to cut their way through the Khazad warriors and, well, what's left of the Khazad warriors and Ironfoot warriors here, but again, that's not going to be enough really. With their twin blades, they also use them as their javelins. Oof. A perfect sweeping charge there from the Mumakil. giving the Demons of the Desert a little bit more breathing room. These Ironfoot warriors are being surrounded now. These Trollmen are coming in, so they should probably die off as well. Doubtlessly Harad and Dale have joined forces at this point, seeing the Dwarven power in all its glory. And these Ironfoot warriors' victory seems certain, but they're being poked by Southron Warband. Over here we've got more Ironfoot warriors again. Ironfoot warriors are difficult to deal with for standard infantry from other factions. I mean, their armor piercing is not really transferring too well over to these Harad units, but even so, they're just so tough. Defeat does now seem certain, but I think that was the last Mumakil. Yeah, that will be it. All 4 Mumakil dead. So the final sweeping charges that he got off on these units over here, they will help the demons pull through over here, though. Most of the Dwarven elites, however, are mopping up Dale. There's another unit of Ironfoot warriors coming in, and what's left of the hammers. There's only 15 of them though, so the amount of hit points they have left is probably very, very limited. But they are going to still come in and try and deal with the demons. Harad probably needs to get his units all clumped together. I'm not sure using the Demons of the Desert ammo on whatever to be honest, I don't know what he was using them on, so I can't really judge, but I definitely would have saved it for the Dwarven elites. This Ironfoot Guard and these Mithril Guards, they're going to be able to chop through the Dale Swordmasters. Dale Swordmasters are not armor piercing in spite of the Zweihanders they carry. They are like most great swords in the game in the fact that they have a very high base attack, but it's not armor piercing. Again, it doesn't matter too much, they will still do damage, but it does help, and they need all the help they can get, to be frank. And that Mithril Guard is going to still be alive, as well as some of the Ironfoot Guard, and I'm not sure Harad are going to have what it takes to deal with that. There's 25 Trollmen over here. Harad, I think, are trying to group up all their forces, but they're, I don't think they have enough left. I think this is going to be the end. I mean, there's still a lot of battle left to go according to the timer, but I'm not sure where that's going to be coming from. The Trollmen victory seems certain for the Trollmen. They're so effective in this patch. They are armor piercing, of course. They do lack a little bit of survivability when compared to units of sort of a similar caliber, but the amount of attack, the extra attack they get for the deal, is more than worth it. Of all of the armor-piercing sword and board units in this patch, these guys are overall my favourite. And yes, I include the Dwarven units because the Dwarven units are so expensive. These Demons of the Desert are doing their best. They're backed up by very depleted spears. Oh dear. Well, let's go and see what's happening over here. There's 44 Swordmasters still left alive. 1 Mithril Guardsman did fall there. The Swordmasters, I remember the Swordmasters back in the vanilla version of the game, they were underwhelming to say the least, but just like the Trollmen, they've undergone a dramatic transformation and they are now fantastic. Definitely one of my favourite units for Dale. They aren't as good as the Paladins, but the Paladins are so expensive. They're also very slow. Some of that Dwarven influence creeping in. And back over here we can see that these Trollmen, there's only 7 of them left, and these Ironfoot warriors are in. These Hammers of Gundabad are still here. They do receive a charge from the Trollmen though. And all of the sort of the troll units, actually this is a good opportunity for me to see if they are actually bigger unit models. It doesn't look like it. The Demons of the Desert are just standard. But this is all that they have left, really. Unless anyone's got any cheeky units tucked away anywhere. And indeed the Dwarves do have those Ironfoot crossbows they're sort of saving. But over here, Harad are going to be victorious, although with what left I'm not sure. The Ironfoot warriors will fall to the combination of the Trollmen and what's left of the Demons of the Desert, but I think that the hyper-elite Mithril Guardsmen, backed up by the just regular elite Ironfoot Guard, are going to be enough to just stomp them. There's apparently still 10,000 frames worth of a battle still to play here.
Yes, the sun that shines
What
on
is
our
this?
disgrace. We must turn the wind of battle, or we will taste ashes
It's a
instead of
routing
victory.
unit. I'm just trying to see if I've missed anything. Khazad warriors that are breaking. And merchant militia that's breaking. So no, it's just these units over here. Again, the Demons of the Desert, they haven't received many casualties, but now the Ironfoot crossbowmen have been activated to try and soften up the demons for the kill again, presumably. There's also those Ironfoot warriors hiding in the Mumakil's corpse.
The enemy's general lies dead. Now His men can sense their doom upon them.
Well, yes, I imagine Dale are sensing their doom upon them. So the Dwarven player, while I may disagree with how he approached the battle in the early game, the swift betrayal that he inflicted on his barding ally, that is what's going to give him victory here today. At least I assume. I mean, the Demons of the Desert are good, but 19 of them can't hold off all of the units that are left. There's also one Southron warband, I guess. Mumakil 0, dead. I like that the unit card still shows up for the Mumakil on their corpses. That's pretty nice. Over here, these crossbowmen should fall pretty quickly, but... Oh, they still had ammunition. No wonder he charged into them quickly. They are going to die pretty quickly, though. And there's still Ironfoot warriors dotted around. And again, the real problem is going to be those Mithril guardsmen. I would be interested to see if the Demons of the Desert do have ammunition still.
Army is tiring.
I assume they don't, but if they do, that might explain why the match is still so long, because the kiting might well be real. And now the Dwarves have got no ranged presence. Demons of the Desert are tired. Oh no, they do still have these three. Not for long though. The Demons of the Desert, in my experience, have always... I've used them to brutal effect all at once. Every other time I've used them, they've been focused down. And it's a real shame because I know how strong they potentially are. They've got like a missile damage of like 30, I think it is, and they've got 3 hit points as well. No armour though, which is of course their Achilles heel. See the Ironfoot Guard and the Mithril Guard slowly marching in. They can take their time, I suppose. I mean, the Dwarves would never be able to catch them if the Demons of the Desert just ran, but a few more demons did fall to those crossbowmen though. Do they still have ammunition? If they do, it's actually not over yet. I mean, there's still those Ironfoot warriors. What are they doing? Are they going to try and finish off this very small pocket of resistance over here? Amongst their comrades, they are indeed. Well, there they go. In one charge. There's still just a few units, and indeed the way the Dwarves are just sort of moving in slowly, it does allow these demons to just sort of mop up what's left of the Dwarven resistance over here, but again, I'm pretty sure that's going to be in vain. I mean, as the Ironfoot Guard and the Mithril Guard approach, I would really like for the Demons of the Desert to have ammunition left. That would be the thing that swings it. There's still those Ironfoot warriors over there. Are those Haradrim spearmen coming back? No, they're still routing. They're just running around all over the place. That one flag carrier, he made a decent stand. Do they still have ammo? That's the big question. Because they will need it. There's no way that a bloodied unit of Demons of the Desert will be able to beat Mithril Guard and Ironfoot Guard in melee. Or are they just gonna accept their fate? Looks like they're just gonna accept their fate and fight. Where does 7,000 frames come from then? I'm very, very confused. Unless these Dwarven units simply can't defeat the Demons of the Desert in melee. It's those 6 warriors back there. Oh, he is, he's running. Is he going to try and destroy this unit of 6 back here? I assume he is. I mean, they're going to die in a charge. Well, 3 of them did. 4 of them did. And then the other 2 died almost immediately. More kills. What is going to happen here? Are they just going to charge in? Accept their fate? There's a Haradrim spearman. Oh, I think this is his general, isn't it? WK likes to put his general in like a really low tier unit all the time. It's an interesting way of doing things. I mean, it does mean that you can use your elites more freely. course, it does also mean that your general's in a garbage unit. That must have been the one that was in Skiltron. Do they have ammunition? I don't think they do. It would be amazing if they suddenly threw their javelins. The dwarves are sort of approaching in shield wall. What do you got, demons? Again, the dwarves, they're heavily armoured. Well, they don't have ammunition, clearly. And they're going for the Ironfoot Guard first. I mean, they will probably get more kills like that. You could try and cycle charge the dwarves, I suppose, but you're going to lose more men every time you pull out. The Ironfoot Guard didn't take any losses on the charge either.
Curse the sun that shines on our disgrace! We must turn the wind of battle, or we will taste ashes instead of victory.
There's still presumably a very long way in this battle to go. And yet these are the only units, correct? Is there some sort of hidden Dalian unit that's over here? I mean, apparently there is a red... Maybe there is. Maybe there's a unit of Athala Rangers still waiting. I mean, the Athala Rangers stand no chance at all in melee against these guys. Rangers are glass cannons even when they're in a skirmish fight in their natural sort of environment.
That shines on our disgrace. We must. Our foolish general was bolder than a rooster, and allowed himself to be slain in battle.
Charging on his own into Mithril Guard. I mean, he's got to get points for ballsiness, at the very least. I mean, the demons have done their best against these Ironfoot Guard. But the dwarves look like they're going to hold firm. The demons are going to try and escape melee by the looks of things. I mean, there's not really a great deal of point at the moment. You're not going to do much damage off a charge with only 3 dudes. There must that red arrow on that map must be a hidden unit. I'm trying to sort of see where the unit card is, but of course I can. I mean, Athala Rangers, if they still have ammunition, maybe they can do something, but the Mithril Guard are so resilient to archers that I can't really see anything else happening.
Our men are fleeing the battle. Rally our men before victory flies away with the wind.
And there goes Harad. Now, I'm interested to see how this pans out, because Dale still have a unit hidden. And obviously he's not eager to commit them, because I assume they are Athala Rangers, and in melee they will get absolutely chewed up by Dwarven infantry. Unless they're just hidden amongst the corpses, which is possible. There they are, Rivermen. Oh, they're javelins at least. I mean, they need to kill literally every dwarf because Rivermen are god-awful in melee. They're going to get a decent amount of kills on these Mithril... Well, a decent amount of kills on Mithril Guard for what is essentially farmers throwing sharp sticks. Oh, they're doing their best. Pizza Maker is putting up a fight to the end. And I mean, it was the Dwarven betrayal of Dale that did indeed lead to what I assume is going to be the Dwarven victory. I mean, I'd be absolutely amazed if these 24 Rivermen managed to pull this off. I mean, they are faster, much faster than the Dwarves, so the Dwarves are just going to have to accept the fact that they are going to be eating all of the ammunition that these Rivermen have left. Let's speed it up to ×2. I mean, we know we don't need to see in detail what this kiting is going to throw. How much ammunition do they have left? I mean, a low tier javelin unit like this does often have a decent amount of ammunition, but not enough to deal with this amount. Still, the Mithril Guard are holding up firm. One did die. Another one died. They're getting into shield wall which is the best thing for them at this point. Get into shield wall and just try and sort of amble towards the enemy. Yeah, there's no way the Rivermen are going to get absolutely squashed in melee as soon as the Dwarves catch up to them with how much time is left. But at least a few more Dwarves did fall. Here they go, they've got no ammunition left. There's Dane with his magnificently pink armour. I believe that's one of the Oricani unit models from Divide and Conquer. Magnificently pink. And yeah, these Rivermen. Riverman against Mithril Guard in melee. There's not really much of a contest there. I mean, the fact that they lasted more than 100 frames in melee is honestly not bad for them. They are wavering though. Actually no, well, they're only shaken now. They believe. Good on you, Riverman. $11 left. They're actually not dying all that quickly. Well, yeah. The betrayal, the backstab was the course. Was the source of the Dwarven victory here. And of course, just the fact that late on the Dwarven infantry unit, the elites, they often have so much strength to them. Harad getting the most kills. He actually had the most men deployed as well, so that's pretty impressive. Again, the rush that was deployed on Mordor was very effective, but ultimately the lack of quality was what hurt Harad in the end. They did have some individual units of quality, but against one player a rush does work, but in the long run, in a free-for-all, you have to basically rely on your opponents forgetting about you, and the Dwarves and Dale certainly didn't, because they obviously came to some sort of agreement to attack Harad together, even if the Dwarves ignored that alliance, which I actually admire that. Good for them. Betrayal it takes a certain kind of person to enact such fierce betrayal. And here we can see all the casualties. A lot of the Harad cavalry doing very well, the Demons of the Desert doing immensely well. A lot of the Southron Warband doing quite well as well against the Mordor orc fodder. Several of these Haradrim spearmen, of course, very basic levels of kill. The Mumakil with 1,239 kills. That's probably the most effectively I've seen Mumakil used, to be honest with you. Very, very well done. And then the Trollmen getting a decent amount of kills, as they always do. So I think that Harad did very well. But ultimately, when you do a rush like that, you're opening yourself up to the politics of a free-for-all sort of consuming you. And unfortunately, it did. And the Dwarven player took full advantage of it. So well done the Dwarves for that victory. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll join me for whatever is next.